Welcome to the Financial Power Play, the podcast where hockey meets real life money talk. I'm Brett from Uptown Wealth Management, here to help hockey families and professionals create a financial game plan that works on and off the ice. From the rink to retirement, this is your go-to for real stories, smart strategies, and trusted advice. Let's drop the puck and dive in. Hi, welcome to the Financial Power Play. I'm your host, Brett Cranston, and today I have a great guest, Lindsey Loro. She's an estate and trusts and estate lawyer, as well as a goalie who's played hockey started hockey later in life. And so I thought she'd be great to come on and tell you about her story in hockey and where she's doing now. So, Lindsey, welcome you to the podcast.
Thanks, Brad. I'm really excited to be here.
That's great. So what I want to kind of start out with is, I know that we've spoken before. You talked about that you started hockey a little bit later in life. So how did you start your passion for hockey, and then sort of tell us about your journey?
Yeah, you bet. Well, I've always loved hockey. I grew up in sort of a hockey-based family. We're the family that goes out to the ranch on Christmas Eve and skates on the pond and all of that good stuff. And, older cousins and that all play hockey. So it just kind of came naturally to me. And when I was able to finally drive myself to hockey and, I had a job to pay for all of the equipment that's involved in being a goalie. I remember I got a bunch of secondhand equipment and showed up at a shinny one day, and that was not pretty. But I took goalie lessons. I took as much instruction as I could, and I think I've always kind of loved to play sports, and so I picked it up pretty quick. And um, played some junior girls hockey, and then moved into playing for the UFC Dinos, which was a super incredible experience and one that I'm so grateful for. Following that, though, after university, there's not a lot, or at that time there wasn't a lot of women's hockey around. So I just started joining whatever shinny leagues I could play in and feed the addiction. And now I have the privilege of playing with probably five different leagues here in Calgary. Just mostly pickup. I do sub for one women's team in the Saha League in Tier 2, which is super fun. So yeah, no, it's just as much as I can get out on the ice, the better. I absolutely love being out there, and when I have the privilege of playing with really great players. One of my shinny ices was with Dubai's All-Star Shinnies, which I'm going to drop their name because they're awesome, and I get to play really high-end hockey, and so they light me up. But gosh, is it ever fun playing with them?
That's awesome. So, what got you into like wanting to play goalie? I know it's like it's kind of one of those positions where I know all little kids they love to play. They want to play because of the equipment. But what got you into wanting to play that position?
So as a child, and I have a picture of it at home, uh, my brothers used to volunteer me to be goalie. And so there's photos. I remember we got rid of this couch, and my brothers turned the back couch cushions. They put tape around the outsides and turned them into little goalie pads. And so being out on the street, I was the goalie. And I'm not sure. I get asked that question a lot, and I couldn't say why I love it so much. It's weird. You're excited. People enter your zone and you're like, come on, shoot. You want them to shoot and you want to have those shots coming at you. And I couldn't qualify why that is. I think a lot of people would just say that I'm unbalanced and like many other goalies, that's generally the assumption.
Nice. So we also talked about that you started playing hockey later in life, and like I know I'm a financial guy, so I want to get a little bit into that kind of situation. Like you mentioned that you didn't really start playing until you were able to get your own driver's license and get your own car and be able to drive yourself to the rink. So take us back to like that, like you're late starting later, and like with all the other with the financial stuff, maybe like with your family situation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically, for most of my life, my one of my brothers did competitive gymnastics, and that took up a lot of the driving time available and that kind of thing. I think if I had pushed the matter, I'm sure my parents would have made it happen for me. But as it happened, it all worked out okay. And, now I think I have the benefit of not having wrecked my body for the first, 15 years of my life at least. But since I put on those skates, it's kind of been no turning back since then.
Yeah, that's great. And then, so now you're working as a lawyer, as a trust and estate planning. So how was that, I guess, transition from playing a little bit at a higher level, junior hockey, and now and then going into like the workforce and then wanting to become a lawyer and in the trust and estate planning side?
I think that certainly there's a tie between what some people might call stubbornness, but I call determination. And that especially being a goalie, I think you develop a mindset that you're not quitting and you're not giving up and you're never going to give up. And so I think that translates really well into being a lawyer because you're going to get these problems solved for people. You're going to figure out answers. You're going to figure out a solution wherever possible. And I think that determination transfers over really well.
That's awesome. And then we you mentioned like that. I guess with trust and estate planning, it's kind of where I kind of want to go with this a little bit. Your hockey story is great, and with the financial guy and trust and estate lawyer, and then with some hockey stuff, is that a lot of hockey families, and that's people I work with that I see. They put all their time and energy into their kids' hockey, or even like professional hockey players or guys who are playing minor pro. They put all their time and effort into training and playing hockey and all their money into that. And they don't really think about the future, what's happening after they play, or if something were to happen to them while they're playing, especially in the professional level. So what's the importance of them kind of maybe working with someone like you that they should be thinking about while they're playing or involved in the sport?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for anybody, the documents that I prepare, and so I'm a wills and trust lawyer, and I also do estate work. So I see both sides of the coin of, planning for death and then what happens after someone passes away. And both sides are equally kind of tough to get through. But I think that, for hockey players in particular, we tend to get kind of tunnel vision on the goal, and we don't think about all of these other things. But in any sport, you're going to have the risk of getting hurt. You're going to have the risk of suffering a brain injury. And if you don't have your ducks in a row, that causes a lot of uncertainty for those people that have to figure it out for you. Um, I think, for what I do, one of my favorite things, and I'm just, a very open book. People can usually hear what I'm thinking just by the expression on my face, which I think is helpful in helping people talk through what their plans are for death or, incapacity. And you have to do it in a way that's not all doom and gloom, of course. But I think that it's really nice just to have that sense of relief. I've taken the time, I've taken the moment to make these documents happen, and now I know if something happens that I'm in good shape and that everything is ready to go should the worst happen.
Right. And so like when I work with some of these people and I tell them like you need to, you should get your stuff in order, get a will written up. So what's the process that you kind of take someone through to like when they maybe call you up and start working with you?
Yeah, you bet. So our very first meeting is a bit of a fact-finding mission. And the way that I classify your documents is a bit like an iceberg, okay? So we've got, you could go to a strip mall and get perfectly good looking documents that probably will work. The trouble is that we need to investigate what's happening under the water because it could be that those documents that you got put together or that you wrote up yourself, they don't match what's happening under the water, and that's where we start seeing some ships sinking because of what how that those two things collide. So I think it's you definitely want to make sure that um, our fact-finding mission I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I want to know about your assets. I want to know if you have beneficiaries on some of your designations. Does it make sense to have those beneficiaries? Are there minors? Is that a good idea? You know, really diving into what you have, how it's held, who you hold it with, what your plans are, what your family is like. Are there dynamics that we need to be aware of? Are there addiction issues? Are there disabilities? All those things form part of that underside of the iceberg. And that very first meeting is part of that. Once we go through that first meeting, we take my notes back. We put together some drafts, send them to the client to have a look. From there, we have a review meeting where we just go through. It's really important to me that people understand what their documents say because so many times, they're like, well, the legalese, I don't know what it says, so I'm sure it's fine. But no, that's not okay. I want to make sure that what we've got is what you mean. And then the final meeting is just a short, here's the final drafts. We've got them dated and everything, and now you're going to sign everything.
Awesome. So that's great to hear how that you make the process so simple and easy for people. Something that I find is that a little bit of challenges is that sometimes they're hesitant or people keep putting it off, saying they'll do it later. So, what kind of challenges do you see with people not reaching out to you, or maybe they reach out to you and then they don't follow through?
Yeah, it's super common. Nobody likes to think about these things. Nobody likes to talk about it, but one of the things that I prompt people, at least people with children, is I say, is there anybody in your life you don't want to be caring for your kids if something happens to you? Because sometimes that's just as much of an impetus to get these documents done as any other reason. But no, I think there's certainly a feeling when you're healthy and you're in good shape, and hockey players are probably the worst for this because we take a hit and we're like, I'm fine, and you get up and you carry on, right? I think there's this feeling that this is a long time off, and so we don't have to worry about this, and so it's a challenge for me too, getting people to understand that this could happen. Life can be short sometimes, and as much as we don't like to think about it, it's much nicer to think about it knowing everything would be in good shape if it did happen.
Right. And then you mentioned to me when we were speaking that you wanted to start working with the same sort of type of people that I work with, hockey families or hockey people, and you play in a lot of leagues with different types of people. So tell me more about like how you're going about talking to, I guess, the guys that you play with in hockey, and like I don't know if they have any kids that play hockey, or if you talk to any of those minor hockey teams as well.
I don't get involved so much in the minor hockey at present, except through the guys that I play hockey with. And, it's a little tricky with me because I do play 99% men's hockey. And so I'm not in the dressing room with all the guys just shooting the breeze after. And I'm also, in the crease instead of being on the bench. And so it can be a little difficult to start those conversations, but just taking the opportunity to go out for a beer or tailgate beers after an ice time is really valuable, I think, to get to know people and have them get to know me. And, I think there's a feeling sometimes that people don't want to be creepy, and so they're reluctant to talk me up or anything like that. But once they get to know me a little on the ice, and then, maybe we're giving each other a little bit of a hard time about this, that, or the other thing, I think that their comfort level gets better, and we form that relationship. And I'm sure you find the same thing that, while I'm happy to help anybody, I love doing this work for people. Um, I think there's a certain bond that hockey families have together, and there's a certain common ground that, yeah, I get how much ice costs, and yeah, equipment is expensive, and it's a huge time commitment and all of these things, but there's just a bond there that, when I mention I play hockey, people are like, oh, well, I play hockey or my grandkids play hockey. And I think that's a nice tie.
Yeah, that's the same thing with me. Is that I find that, and this is why I work in this space, is that hockey people are all sort of connected, no matter where they are. Like where you are in Alberta and I'm in Ontario, it's we still were able to connect and talk hockey, and it's almost the same language that we're speaking. So it's
Yeah.
really good that way. So just to sort of, I guess, go on from this, like What's I'm just gonna ask you some few questions about yourself. Like, what's one of the things? Like, do you have any superstitions as a goalie? When you're going to the rink or something like that. What are a couple superstitions that you have?
Well, like any, self-respecting goalie, I absolutely forbid the mention of a shutout prior to the event taking place. I feel like that is the worst kind of luck you're ever going to run into. I have a lot of strange, I don't know if they're superstitions, but they're habits. I like to put on my left skate first, then my right, and my left pad first, and then my right. Um, and I always like to get ready in the same order. And then, when I'm on the ice, um, I do like to, one thing I do constantly is I track my shots in my head, and my goals so that at the end of the day, I have some kind of a stat for myself. And I feel like somehow tracking that, if I'm at say 12 saves, I'm like, well, I want to get to 14 saves. And then I have my favorite numbers. So, if I make a really good save as my 20th save, I'm really excited about that. So just kind of those strange little things you do to keep yourself in the game.
That's great. Yeah, sometimes as a goalie, you have to try to figure out how to stay concentrated on the ice because there could be a long time between getting shots between someone coming down on you. So you got to figure that out. So that's great. Um, and then what's let's just end on this. What's one piece of advice that maybe you would give to a hockey parent coming up that maybe their kids want to play goalie?
Facebook Marketplace is your friend.
That's awesome. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
You
the
can find
equipment.
some good deals on there.
Yeah, the equipment's very expensive these days, and so yeah, if you can get some used equipment, I think that's great advice. All right, well, Lindsay, I don't have much more questions for you, so thanks for coming on. This has been great. I'd like that get some information out there in terms of getting wills and estates set up, and I think it's important for everybody to sort of look at this because you never know when things happen. You don't want to leave your family to have to figure out all your stuff. It's great to have it kind of organized. So I think it's very important for people to reach out to you. So thanks for coming on and thanks for sharing what you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Financial Power Play. If this episode sparked something for you, be sure to subscribe, share it with your hockey crew, and leave a review. Want to talk about building your own financial playbook? Visit uptownwealthmanagement.com to book a free consultation. Until next time, stay focused, stay flexible, and keep playing your game.